They thought she was powerless, just another black woman they could disrespect. But when the tables turned, they realized they had messed with the wrong person. What happened next will haunt them forever. Two racist cops thought they were untouchable. They pulled over a black woman, mocked her, and even arrested her, believing no one would question their actions. To them, she was just another victim of their authority. But what they didn't realize was that this woman wasn't powerless at all. She was Judge Williams, someone they'd soon regret crossing. In just a few days, the same woman they humiliated would be the one deciding their fate in court. This story is a shocking reminder of how prejudice can backfire in the most unexpected ways. Stay tuned because what happened in that courtroom left everyone stunned. The story begins on a quiet suburban street where two police officers are patrolling in their cruiser. To most people, this would seem like a routine part of the day, but for these two, it's an opportunity to flex their authority. They spot a black woman driving a luxury car and immediately make assumptions. To them, she doesn't belong in this neighborhood. Without any legitimate reason, they decide to pull her over. The woman, calm and composed, rolls down her window as one officer approaches. From the very first interaction, their tone is demeaning. "Do you even know why you're in this neighborhood?" The officer sneers. The woman, unshaken, responds respectfully. "I have every right to be here. Can you tell me why you stopped me?" Instead of answering her question, the officer demands her license and registration. As she reaches for her purse, the second officer standing nearby begins making unnecessary comments. "I'm sure this car isn't even hers," he mutters loud enough for her to hear. The woman hands over her documents, and they scrutinize them as if searching for a problem. Finding nothing wrong with her paperwork, they shift tactics. The first officer accuses her of a minor traffic violation, claiming she failed to use her turn signal. The woman politely denies this, explaining she used her signal before making her turn. But her logical response only seems to fuel their hostility. Frustrated by her calm demeanor, one officer escalates the situation by demanding she step out of the vehicle. When she questions the need for this, he raises his voice and accuses her of resisting. At this point, the situation takes a darker turn. The woman is forced out of the car, handcuffed, and placed under arrest for no valid reason. As they drive her to the station, the officers mock her openly. They make crude jokes about how she'll never be able to fight back against them. "People like you never win," one officer says smugly. The woman, sitting silently in the back seat, listens to every word but says nothing. At the station, the humiliation continues. She's booked and placed in a holding cell. The officers walk past, smirking and joking about how they've put another troublemaker in her place. To them, this is just another routine day of abusing their power. What the officers don't realize is that they've made a grave mistake. They're operating under the assumption that this woman is powerless, that she's just another victim who will quietly endure their racism and misconduct. Little do they know, this woman is Judge Williams, one of the most respected judges in the district. The woman sits in the cell, patiently waiting. She knows her position and the power she wields. She's not just waiting for her release. She's already thinking about how to ensure these officers are held accountable. This moment is the calm before the storm, a brewing reckoning that will leave the officers shocked and regretful. Stay tuned, because justice is coming. As the woman, now identified as Judge Williams, sits in the holding cell, the two officers continue their smug conversation in the hallway. They're completely unaware of who she is. To them, she's just another black woman they've humiliated, another notch in their belt of unchecked power. She probably doesn't even know how to file a complaint. One of them laughs, leaning against the wall. People like her just accept it and move on. They know better than to challenge us. Meanwhile, Judge Williams remains silent, her mind racing. She's not just thinking about her release, she's already planning the next steps. She knows these officers will face accountability, and she's determined to ensure their actions don't go unpunished. But for now, she waits, her calm demeanor concealing the storm brewing inside. The next morning, the officers process her release, still arrogantly joking about their victory. They hand her back her belongings, expecting her to leave quietly. She does, without a word of protest. But the look in her eyes, a piercing mix of defiance and dignity, unsettles one of the officers, though he quickly brushes it off. What the officers don't realize is that Judge Williams is already preparing for what comes next. That same day, she files a formal complaint, not as a judge, but as a private citizen who has been wronged. Using her deep knowledge of the legal system, she ensures every detail of their misconduct is documented. She has the evidence: her spotless driving record, the unnecessary escalation, and even the demeaning comments the officers made while arresting her. The officers, however, remain oblivious. They continue their routine patrols, still targeting individuals based on race and flaunting their authority without consequence. To them, Judge Williams is just another faceless name they'll never hear from again. But their illusion of invincibility is about to shatter. A week later, the officers are summoned to court. At first, they think it's just another procedural case, likely involving someone they arrested in the past. They walk into the courtroom with their usual arrogance, chatting casually about their plans for the weekend. But the moment the judge enters, their world flips upside down. Standing before them in her judicial robes is Judge Williams, the very woman they mocked, arrested, and humiliated. The courtroom falls silent as the officers freeze, their faces pale with shock. They exchange panicked glances, realizing the gravity of their situation. Judge Williams doesn't address them immediately. She proceeds with the case as she would any other, maintaining professionalism despite the deeply personal nature of the incident. But her calm, measured demeanor only adds to the officers' growing unease. As the hearing progresses, the evidence against the officers is laid out in meticulous detail. Witness testimonies, dashcam footage, and even recordings from the station reveal the extent of their misconduct. Their racist remarks and abuse of power are undeniable. The courtroom watches as the officers struggle to justify their actions, their usual confidence replaced with stammering excuses. Judge Williams listens intently, her expression unreadable. When it's finally her turn to speak, she delivers a powerful statement. She doesn't raise her voice or show anger. Instead, She speaks with a quiet authority that leaves no room for argument. This courtroom stands as a place of justice, not as a platform for those who misuse their power. Your actions have not only violated the rights of an individual, but have undermined the very principles you swore to uphold. This is not just a matter of misconduct, it is a betrayal of the public trust. The officers sit in stunned silence, unable to look her in the eye. By the end of the hearing, the verdict is clear. Their actions are deemed unethical and illegal, resulting in their immediate dismissal from the police force and further legal consequences. For Judge Williams, this isn't just about personal vindication. It's about setting a precedent and ensuring that such behavior is no longer tolerated. Her quiet determination has turned a moment of injustice into a powerful example of accountability. This case sends shockwaves through the community and beyond, sparking conversations about systemic racism and the abuse of power. And for the two officers, it serves as a stark reminder. The people you look down on might just be the ones holding your fate in their hands. The moment Judge Williams steps into the courtroom, the two officers feel the weight of their arrogance crashing down on them. Their eyes widen and their hands tremble as they exchange a quick, nervous glance. They thought this was just another case, an easy day at work. But now, they stand in front of the very woman they humiliated, the same woman they thought was powerless. Judge Williams moves gracefully toward the bench, her demeanor calm, but the officers can't ignore the cold, piercing gaze she's directing at them. The courtroom feels charged with tension as everyone waits for the proceedings to begin. They know this is no ordinary case, but they don't fully understand just how extraordinary it is until Judge Williams calls the courtroom to order. She speaks with a voice that commands attention, steady and unwavering, her every word measured. This court is here to ensure justice. And today, we will see if justice can be found in the actions of these officers. Her words send a ripple through the room, drawing the officers' eyes to the front. They shift uneasily in their seats, their arrogance slowly slipping away. The officers exchange worried glances, unsure of what to expect next. They had been expecting a routine trial, with little to no repercussions for their actions. After all, they had the power. They had the authority, or so they thought. Judge Williams wastes no time. She starts the proceedings, asking the officers to recount the events of the night. As they speak, their words sound rehearsed, as if they've practiced their defense countless times. They try to paint a picture of a dangerous situation, claiming they feared for their lives. But the more they speak, the less convincing they become. Judge Williams listens intently, her expression unreadable. Her eyes never leave them, and the tension builds with every word. She knows exactly how to dissect their story, and as they continue their testimony, the cracks in their defense begin to show. The inconsistencies in their accounts are glaring. They stutter when asked for specifics and hesitate when pressed for details. The court audience watches in stunned silence as the evidence unfolds. Dashcam footage from the officer's patrol car is presented, showing the entire arrest, from the moment they pulled her over to the point they dragged her from the vehicle. The footage reveals the officers taunting, their disrespect, and the clear abuse of power. It's all there, captured on tape. There's no denying what happened. But the officers still try to salvage their position. One of them stands up and starts to argue, his voice rising with desperation. She was resisting. She was defiant. We had to act. He shouts, but his words are met with silence. The courtroom is watching, waiting, and it's clear that no one believes him. His defense crumbles under the weight of the evidence. Judge Williams doesn't flinch. She remains composed as she listens to his outburst. Then, without hesitation, she turns her attention to the other officer. "And you? Do you have anything to add?" she asks, her voice steady but commanding. The second officer stammers, his face pale. He tries to form words, but they don't come. The more he tries to justify their actions, the more ridiculous it sounds. The courtroom is silent except for his futile attempts to explain himself. The officers know they've lost control of the situation. Finally, Judge Williams speaks again, her voice calm and measured, but it carries the weight of authority. "Your actions were not just an abuse of power. They were an insult to the very foundation of justice. Your misconduct will not be tolerated. The verdict is swift and inevitable." The officers are found guilty of multiple charges: racial profiling, abuse of power, and misconduct. The judge delivers the sentence with the cold precision of someone who has seen too much of this in her career, but is determined to right the wrongs that have been done. As the gavel strikes, the courtroom erupts in a mix of disbelief and relief. The officers, their faces drained of color, are escorted out of the courtroom in shame. They realize too late that their actions have cost them everything, something they'll have to live with for the rest of their lives. For Judge Williams, the moment isn't about personal revenge. It's about restoring justice and sending a clear message that no one, no matter their position or power, is above the law. And as she leaves the courtroom, the echo of the gavel's final strike lingers in the air, a reminder that justice, no matter how delayed, is always worth fighting for. Judge Williams delivered justice that day, but the message was far bigger. The officers learned the hard way that their abuse of power wouldn't go unpunished. Their careers were destroyed, and their actions exposed for the world to see. This case serves as a powerful reminder. Racism, misconduct, and injustice have consequences. No one, no matter their position, is above the law. And for Judge Williams, this was just another day of fighting for what's right. If you're ready for more stories exposing injustice, subscribe now and don't miss the next one.